On the line now, Mr. Andy Preston, the independent mayor of Middlesbrough, which has been moved into Tier 3. Andy, good afternoon to you and thank you for joining me.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Doing very well indeed, Andy. And, we've got to fight the good fight. And you'll have heard, if you were listening to the show a few minutes ago, already protesters out on the streets saying that this is draconian, this is too much. How do you feel about your particular area, your mayor up there, you lead from the front, being stuffed into Tier 3 when actually infections in large parts of your domain are going down?
Yeah, they've gone down massively. You know what? We hit a high of just over 500. As of this morning, last number I saw, I think we're down to 200. Yeah. So it's fallen 60%. And I would imagine actually within a week or so, if we carry on that trend, we're going to be down at the mid-100s. So massive sacrifice, massive result. Well done, everyone. Yeah. And what I really want, I want to see the pubs open, so long as they're responsible and safe. I want to see the restaurants open, so long as they're responsible and safe.
Yes.
And if they're not responsible, close the places down. But people deserve the chance to go out and socialise, and we need to keep these jobs alive.
Yeah.
We've got to try and live with this, don't we? We've got to be sensible and careful. Yes. But we've got to try and live with it.
Yes, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, to all intents and purposes, when lockdown lifts on Wednesday this week, it doesn't for your part of the world. You're going to then be pushed into Tier 3 restrictions. That's just as bad, isn't it?
It is almost as bad, absolutely. I mean, listen, I have to be honest and clear with you and everyone that I am pleased we've got our infection rate down. It was getting out of control. Yeah. But I really believe that what we could do now, we could be in a Tier 2 type situation where there are some restrictions, but you can still go with your wife, your mate, your brother for a respectful, careful pint and a nice dinner with a couple of drinks. That would be fantastic. But we're not going to be allowed to do that. Everywhere is closed. Bad for jobs, bad for mental health. And we need to find a way of getting back to normality, don't we?
Oh, of course we do. I totally agree. Now, you will be familiar with a town called Yarm, won't you, Andy? Okay.
I love Yarm.
Yeah, exactly. And so I drive up to Yarm. I go to the Tall Trees Hotel. I want to walk in there, have a few beers at the bar first, then use their magnificent restaurant. Maybe stay overnight, stay for a weekend because it's a beautiful town. I might take a stroll down the high street then to the Black Bull, I think it is, one of the great pubs in Yarm. Okay, because we used to stay there when England were playing at the Borough, you know, and that would be the sort of freedom and the sort of life that everybody in this country should expect. But these places are all closed. They're all closed, and yet your infections are going down. It's a travesty.
Well, yes. Listen, we do have to get the infection under control. We've got to look after people, as you know as well. Yeah. Safety does come first. But I do believe, honestly, I believe there's definitely a way of having pubs and restaurants open and being safe. I mean, to close them all seems insane to me. Let the good ones open, monitor what they do, and if they break the rules, close them down. Yeah. Let's keep the good ones open.
No, I totally agree. It's insane to me as well. Now, Andy, have you have the government at least given you some time from a government minister or somebody who deals with the regions to explain why they are imposing these outrageous curtailments on your people?
I haven't had a direct conversation, but I know what they're looking at, a whole range of factors. So it's not just the infection rate, it's how quickly or slowly it's shrinking or growing. Yeah. It's also about hospitalizations, and it's about who's infected. So if you've got a bunch of youngsters infected, that's not as dangerous for the NHS and the general population as a bunch of over 60s. So there's a whole range of factors, but I'm going to be lobbying hard. Once our number gets clearly below 200, lobbying hard to get into Tier 2 and get those, as you say, the Black Bull or wherever open, so long as it's run responsibly, get it open for a bit of safe, intelligent, friendly drinking.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The pubs are some of the safest environments in this country. I mean that. And I'm not saying that because, you know, I'm desperate to get a drink. I love pubs in this country like the Black Bull because it's the institution on which we've been brought up on for hundreds of years, literally. Now, how do you feel, Andy, when this was written by Mr. Michael Gove, Cabinet, Minister for the Cabinet or something like that, who was writing in the Times this morning, headline says, lockdown was the only way to stop the NHS being broken, okay? Now, could you tell me, please, how the hospitals and the medical facilities in your area are coping? Do you have any fear they'll be swamped and overwhelmed? Or are you confident that they would have coped with the reduction in infections to steer you back to the sort of civilised life we should all lead?
Well, you know what? Obviously, I'm no expert at this, but I did genuinely.
Well, you're not, but you're the mayor of the area, so you will have taken a big
yeah.
interest in the medical facilities.
Absolutely. So I spoke to people that run the hospitals, I spoke to surgeons, and I spoke to public health experts. I have to share with you, honestly, they were genuinely worried. We didn't reach breaking point, but they were starting to look at cancelling routine operations, and they were fearful that if we continued, and we've got to remember, we got above 500 in terms of rate per 100,000.
Yes.
They were fearful of a major problem. So I have to be clear that I do think at that point the introduction of a lockdown was the right thing to do.
Right, so that's fine. You've been completely honest and straightforward. But when you've put all the hard work in and now got the numbers down, you don't deserve to be rewarded by more draconian measures on Wednesday. I mean, Tier 3 effectively keeps the pubs closed in your area, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. And I've said it before, I think 3 times, I'll say it again. To me, a well-run pub is much safer than going to, I won't name a brand, but a big supermarket. And it's much safer than doing many other things. Certainly a well-run restaurant. Why can't I go with my wife or a friend or whatever and have a nice, pizza and a beer? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I'm absolutely perplexed. I just don't know who's guiding the government. And we know the scientists are all the time, pouring in with, follow the science, follow the science. Scientists should deliver what they think is happening. And then Boris Johnson, who is the chairman of the board, if you take the United Kingdom, if you take Great Britain, as a huge, big company, he's chairman of the board and he's got to weigh up all the other factors. Do you think he's weighing up all the other factors, or is he just being driven by the science to cover his own backside?
Good question. Truthfully, I don't know. Obviously, I don't see all the information he sees. I have to put my faith in him, I guess. If I don't, then we're all in trouble. Listen, I think the government have had an extraordinarily horrible year. We all have.
Yeah, we all have, and we've all got to cope with it. They wanted us to vote them into power, Andy, so that they then take the responsibility for handling crises like this.
Absolutely right. But do you know what? I think they've made some big mistakes. But I think they've had the toughest job in the world as well. And I have to say, I think we're coming towards the end of this.
Well, are we? Are we? Have you not seen this morning's predictions that this could go on now till Easter?
Well, I personally, this is my personal view, not a scientist or a medic, but my personal view is there could be some restrictions knocking around till Easter. I totally accept that, but I don't think we'll be in this situation till Easter myself. I don't.
Well, I hope not, and I think you're being incredibly generous, by the way, to the to the politicians in Whitehall, because you know as well as I do, politicians in Whitehall have never heard of Yarm. They've never heard of the Black Bull in Yarm. They've never heard of the Tall Trees Hotel. I bet they wouldn't even know where Middlesbrough is. You know what I mean? They just don't seem to care.
In the interest of fairness, actually, to balance it all out, you mentioned the Black Bull. I've got to mention the Cross Keys. The Keys.
Oh yeah, the Cross Keys. Yeah, I know that one as well. Don't worry.
If you're in the area, you need to come into Central Middlesbrough. That's where you need to come and have a pizza, a beer, a steak, or whatever.
Sure.
Central Middlesbrough.
Totally agree. Okay, well, listen, Andy, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Marvellous. Andy Preston, of course, he's the guy who's trying to put things together in his part of the world. He is, of course, the independent mayor for Middlesbrough, and he's got to go into these draconian restrictions when lockdown is laughingly lifted on Wednesday. Okay, so I want to hear from you folks. This is it's a big issue. We're getting stuck into it, and you're responding magnificently. The phone lines are red hot, believe me. But I want you to please give me a call if you'd like to have something to say about this. You're the most important people in this debate. 0344 499 1000. Okay. Next up, we're going to be talking about another massive government issue which has come under the spotlight this week, and that is foreign aid and the amount of foreign aid that this country distributes around the world. Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, is making proposals to cut that, and I'm going to find out whether that's a good idea or a bad idea and what people think about it. Okay,